Didn't take too long, little guy, but we are floating down a tributary to a larger river, and then from there I'm going to work upstream. I really have never fished this. I've floated down through it. It's always at the end of the day. It's usually in the spring. I never really fished it thoroughly, so I'm really excited to get out here and kind of break down this water today because I don't really know what's waiting for me. It's late July, definitely a summer bite. I've got top water on, I've got some other things, but we're going to see what the fish are doing, and we're going to talk about what this bite is on this river here in central Illinois. So the bottom composition here so far is rock mixed with sand. I think where we're going there's going to be mostly rock, but there are a few stretches that I know are some kind of mud sand bottom with a lot of wood. I don't know if we're going to work all the way up to that stuff, but I'm glad to be fishing around some hard bottom. I always want to fish downstream of where a creek or smaller body of water comes in. So we got a current seam right here. I'm just going to fish on the inside of it, and then I'm going to fish all along that current seam. Hopefully some big smallmouth hanging out, waiting for an easy meal floating down here. Bald eagle flying around. That's a good sign. There's one. Oh, got off. Spooked a bunch of bait in there, and that got a couple small smallmouth. I saw one miss it, and that one hit it. So that's downstream of some wood with some nice gravel bottom, though. So there's quite a bit of sand through here at the moment, even though we got kind of rocky banks. This side is definitely a sandy, silty bank. Hopefully we get some changes, but in this scenario, in rivers where there is lots of sand and very little hard cover on the bottom, the fish tend to congregate around any piece of wood that's in the river channel. Now we just need to find out if they're doing that, if they're on the top side or the bottom side. That's generally what you have to do to kind of sort out the bite for the day. Little guy. Throwing a crankbait now. Something I can feel the bottom with, and it's definitely soft. So in the soft, slow flow areas, I'm probably not going to spend much time. Now on like the hard bottom side, it's worth a couple casts, but there's just like no current here. You know, everywhere's different. You'd be surprised to find smallmouth and stuff like this, but I want to continue to hit those high percentage areas as much as possible, and with limited time, only a couple hours in the evening, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time here. First cast with the wacky up there. There's another one. That might have been a little better fish. Really good location right there. Rocky bank, got some good depth. We've got a little bit of grass coming into the water. Not significant enough to maybe play a role, but when that stuff is underneath the water, they do like it. And that guy was tucked pretty darn close. Casted to where I thought was the most likely location right off the bat, and sure enough, good fish. Don't know what this is. Oh, that's a bass. That's not a bass. That's a gar. That's a first. Thought that was a 20-inch smallie. Got it in the mouth too. I don't think I've caught a gar on a whopper plopper. I've had him hit it. It's a little short nose. Unhooked itself, but that was a short-nosed gar. It's a native species here to Illinois. A lot of people consider them trash fish for whatever reason, and they are literally prehistoric. They haven't needed to change. They're so tough they survived millions of years without any intervention of any sort. So I'm not sure why there's such a negative attitude towards them. People will just shoot them and leave them. People will catch them and kill them. They're just like any other fish, and they're actually very fun to catch if you know how to catch them. The problem is a lot of people don't and think they're just a trash fish that's filling up the river and isn't worth having because it's no fun. But they actually play a very important role in the ecosystem. They are carnivorous. They eat bait fish, but their bigger cousins, the alligator gar, are one of, if not the only, natural predator of Asian carp, which are starting to fill up and ruin a lot of our rivers. So these native fish, especially those like the alligator gar that are huge, that are toothy, that are kind of ugly, are super important to our ecosystem. And if you're one of those people who's out there doing those things, shooting them, killing them for no reason, reconsider yourself, because honestly, that's just idiotic behavior. I don't know, guys, am I tripping or is that a spotted bass? I mean, it looks like a largemouth. It's got about the mouth of a smallmouth though. That looks like a spot. I don't know. We'll have to get some fish experts here. Crazy. Oh, he got off. No. Oh, that was a big catfish, a channel. Oh. It's multi-species night on the Plopper. That was a giant. I mean, at least it felt like a catfish. I felt its fins. You know, when they roll, you can feel the fins on your line. That was a giant. That was probably my PB channel if it was. Maybe it was a flathead. Catch giant flathead out of this river, but I wouldn't expect it to be right there. Sitting here thinking to myself, this is the most smallmouth spot ever. Got a nice emergent grass line that comes out into the current. I didn't think that cast was very good. It wasn't very tight to the grass. That's a nice one. That's a nice one. Oh yeah, he's kind of hooked under the mouth. That's a big one. Guys, I was just thinking to myself, there's a shortage of cover right now with this water level, and they're probably going to be out holding on a current feature with some hard bottom, and finally got up to that. I was like, this is going to be probably the last spot I try to get up to with the motor, and it really paid off. A lot of smalls up to this point, but that's pushing 19. They're going to measure him. I don't think he's 20, but that's a trophy for this river for sure. Glad to finally put a big one in the boat. Yeah, just at 19 inches. Really good fish for here. So before it gets too dark here to see, clearly we have some surface disturbances. We have one here, one there, one or two up there, another one up above that. That tells us that there's something big in the water, there's something obstructing it, the water's going up over it. And this, relative to the water back behind it and a lot of what I've been fishing, this is a faster flow area, and this is pretty dominant rock in terms of the substrate or the bottom composition. There's not really sand mixed in. It's all small rock with bigger rock and then big boulders that are out in the middle. And those isolated boulders, a lot of time in the summer, even in the middle of the day, those are going to be good ambush locations for smallmouth. And I catch fish on them when the sun is high. I catch fish on them right now in the evening. I think we're at a little bit of an advantage right now as the light is lessening. The fish are probably more apt to go out and roam around. Clearly that one was out waiting for something to float by one of those rocks. It was in a perfect ambush position, and luckily we put the whopper plopper right on top of it, not doing anything special. It's mostly about location right now tonight and this time of year. And I just want to make it clear that it is not deep here, guys. It is maybe 2.5 at the most, and I'm probably super generous. I think it's probably a foot and a half, maybe 2 feet deep right where I am up there. Probably less. There are these little channels in this river that I've had to try to find and follow that are maybe 2 feet deep so I can run the motor up them, and outside of that, it's very, very shallow. In terms of positioning for that fish, it's kind of hard to say if it was above or below something, because really it was probably above and below these boulders that are making these surface disturbances. We had the right substrate, we had bigger boulders, which is a change from behind us, and anytime you can find a change in the river, especially when the river kind of leans towards smallmouth water, that is really going to be an area we want to fish thoroughly, and we have a much higher likelihood of catching quality smallmouth. So it went from kind of really shallow and sandy and slow, and then it sped up, but it was still very, very shallow. I was scraping to get up here. And so once we got a little bit of depth here, that's when the substrate changed completely to rock. We have some big isolated boulders, which is not something I've been able to fish because of the depth. So there might have been isolated boulders, but it might have been in 2-3 inches of water. And fish will be there sometimes, but they're gone before I'm coming up, because I'm making noise with the motor, whatever else it may be, I'm casting. So those fish I'm not really having a good shot at until I get to an area like this where there's more pockets that I can hit from downstream. Yeah, there's just kind of a field of chunk rock right through there, a larger rock vein. This is all small gravel size rock, or smaller even, pea gravel, and then there's just a rock vein right here with a stretch of bigger rocks. Alright guys, well, I would rather not be out here in the dark, so let's turn things around and start heading back. I'll leave the camera running just in case anything happens. I'll end up making a few casts, I'm sure. But I'm actually very impressed with how this river looks. I don't think it's a big fish river like overall. We're probably not going to come out here and catch a 19, 20 every single time. But evidently they're here if you work for them and kind of have an idea of what you're looking for in terms of the changes, because this river does offer up a lot of changes in terms of its character and its substrate. Like I said, I've floated down through this. I have seen the river itself, but I've never really fished it because this is at the end of a float that I usually do upstream here in a different body of water, tributary of this. And so I float down to get to that ramp, but by that time I'm usually not too interested in fishing, and it's usually spring. So it doesn't even look like this. This is a totally different river from what I've seen it. So this has been a great learning experience for me. It's also been one that's been very relaxing. We had bald eagles, great nature, super quiet out here all around. So I'm going to enjoy that on the float back down. Thanks for coming along with me. Hope you learned something. If not, I at least hope you had a little bit of fun watching me out here on this newer stretch of river to me. See you guys next time. Nice river largemouth.